You're taking advantage of family. Uncle Pete's voice boomed across my dining room table, making the crystal glasses shake. Always acting like you're better than us, throwing your success in our faces. I sat there, stunned into silence, my fork frozen halfway to my mouth. The party dinner I'd spent 3 days preparing suddenly felt like ash in my throat. The irony of his accusation would have been laughable if it weren't so infuriating. My name is Daniel Mitchell, and at 34, I own a beautiful 4-bedroom house in the suburbs of Boston. For the past 8 months, I've been temporarily housing my Uncle Pete, Aunt Marie, and their 2 teenage kids after they lost their home due to what they called unfortunate circumstances. Those circumstances, I later learned, involved years of unpaid mortgages and maxed out credit cards. I don't understand, I said, keeping my voice level. How exactly am I taking advantage? Uncle Pete stabbed his fork into the roast I'd spent hours preparing. All these fancy dinners, this big house, acting like some sort of savior letting us stay here. We're family. You're supposed to help family without making them feel like charity cases. I looked around the table at my relatives' faces. My parents, who lived across town in their own home, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. My younger sister Emily stared at her plate, avoiding eye contact. Aunt Marie just kept eating as if her husband wasn't having a meltdown at our holiday dinner. Uncle Pete, I said carefully, I haven't asked you for a single dollar since you moved in. Not for rent, not for food, not for utilities. Exactly, he thundered. Because you don't need it. You're showing off how much money you have while the rest of us struggle. That was it. 8 months of built-up frustration finally boiled over. I stood up, walked to my home office, and returned with a folder I'd been keeping updated since they moved in. Let's talk about showing off, I said, pulling out the first paper. Here's last month's electricity bill. Notice how it's triple what it was before you moved in. Your kids leave every light on, run the AC at full blast, and nobody seems to know how to unplug a charger. Uncle Pete's face reddened. Now you're counting pennies. I pulled out another statement. Here's the water bill, 4 times higher than normal. Those hour-long showers add up, Uncle Pete. And the weekly car washes in the driveway? I pay for that water. Daniel, my mother interjected softly, maybe this isn't the time. No, Mom, it is the time. I continued, laying out more papers. Internet bill, doubled since they moved in because we needed the premium package for the kids' gaming. Grocery bills, tripled. Gas bill. Don't even get me started on how many times the heat's been left on with windows open. The dining room had gone completely silent. Even Uncle Pete seemed momentarily stunned by the stack of evidence in front of him. And let's not forget, I added, pulling out the final paper, the repair bill for the basement flooding last month when someone decided to try fixing the washing machine themselves instead of calling a professional. Aunt Mary finally looked up from her plate. We said we pay you back for that. Like you paid me back for the car repair in September, or the emergency dental work for Jamie in October? I shook my head. I haven't seen a single dollar. Uncle Pete pushed his chair back, the legs scraping against my hardwood floors. So that's what this is about? Money? You're going to hold that over our heads on party? No, Uncle Pete, I said, my voice steady. This is about respect. You live in my home, use my utilities, eat my food, and then have the audacity to accuse me of taking advantage of family. When's the last time you even bought toilet paper for the house you live in? The silence that followed was deafening. My sister Emily finally spoke up, her voice quiet but firm. He's right, Uncle Pete. Daniel's been supporting you guys for months without complaining. Supporting us? Uncle Pete scoffed, but I could see the uncertainty in his eyes. We're family. Family helps family. Yes, I agreed, gathering the papers back into the folder. Family does help family, but family also shows gratitude. Family respects boundaries, and family certainly doesn't accuse someone of showing off in their own home while living there rent-free. I stood up, suddenly tired of the whole situation. I think it's time we had a serious discussion about your living arrangements. But first, enjoy the dinner I spent 3 days preparing. I'll be in my office when you're ready to talk like adults. As I walked away from the table, I could hear the whispers starting, the shuffle of papers as someone looked through the bills I'd left behind. I hadn't wanted to do this during party dinner, but sometimes people need a wake-up call, even if the timing isn't perfect. In my office, I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and started drafting a formal agreement. If they wanted to continue living here, things were going to change. I had been patient, understanding, and generous. But even family has limits, and Uncle Pete had just found mine. The days following party, dinner were tense, to say the least. Uncle Pete and his family retreated to the basement, emerging only for food or when absolutely necessary. I could hear their whispered conversations late at night, probably discussing their options, but no one approached me directly. My mom called the next morning, her voice hesitant. "Daniel, honey, maybe you were a bit harsh." "Mom," I interrupted, "they've cost me over $15,000 in 8 months. That's not including the food, the broken furniture, or the wear and tear on my house. Would you be misunderstanding if they were living with you?" Her silence was telling. On New Year's Eve, while everyone else in the neighborhood was celebrating, I sat in my home office reviewing my finances. The truth was, I could afford to support them. My job as a software engineer paid well. But that wasn't the point. The point was respect, gratitude, and basic human decency. A knock on my office door pulled me from my thoughts. It was Jamie, Uncle Pete's 16-year-old son. "Hey, Daniel," he said, hovering in the doorway. "Can we talk?" I gestured to the chair across from my desk. Jamie sat down, fidgeting with his phone case. I saw the bills," he started. "I didn't realize how much electricity my gaming setup was using. Or the internet. Or, well, everything." I softened slightly. At least someone was getting it. "It's not just about the money, Jamie." I know, he nodded. "Dad's been difficult. Mom knows it too, but she won't stand up to him. They've been fighting about it." That explained the late-night whispers I've been hearing. "Listen," I said, leaning forward. "I don't want to kick you guys out, but things need to change. Your dad can't keep acting like I owe him something while simultaneously taking advantage of my generosity." Jamie looked down at his hands. "He's always been like this, even before we lost the house. Always thinking the world owes him something." That evening, Aunt Mary finally emerged from the basement, looking tired but determined. She placed an envelope on my desk. "It's not much," she said quietly, "just $500. I've been saving it from my part-time job at the grocery store. I should have spoken up sooner, Daniel. You've been so good to us, and Pete's behavior was inexcusable." I looked at the envelope but didn't take it. "Keep it, Aunt Marie. What I want is change, not money." She sat down heavily in the chair Jamie had occupied earlier. "We've been entitled and ungrateful. The kids see it. I see it. Pete, he's struggling with his pride. Losing the house hit him hard, harder than he'll admit." "I understand that," I said. "But using me as a punching bag for his wounded pride isn't acceptable." She nodded, wiping at her eyes. "We've been looking at apartments, small ones. But stop." I held up my hand. "I meant what I said to Jamie. I don't want you to leave. I want things to change." I pulled out the agreement I drafted. "Here's what I propose. You stay, but with clear boundaries. A reasonable monthly contribution for utilities. Shared responsibility for groceries and household supplies. And most importantly, respect. For my home and for me." Aunt Marie read through the agreement, her eyes widening at how reasonable the suggested contributions were, far less than they'd pay for even the smallest apartment. "This is very fair," she said finally. "More than fair." "I know," I replied, "because this isn't about money. It's about family actually acting like family." Just then, heavy footsteps approached my office. Uncle Pete appeared in the doorway, looking uncomfortable. "The kids showed me their internet research," he said gruffly. "Average utility costs for a household our size. Rental prices in the area. Food costs for 6 people." He cleared his throat. I may have been out of line at party. Coming from Uncle Pete, this was practically groveling. "May have been." I raised an eyebrow. He sighed heavily. "Okay, I was wrong. Dead wrong. And I'm sorry." I let the silence stretch for a moment, watching him squirm. "Sorry for what specifically?" "For accusing you of showing off when you were helping us. For taking advantage of your generosity. For being an ungrateful." He glanced at his wife. "Jerk." I nodded slowly. "And for trying to fix the washing machine myself," he added with a hint of his old humor. Despite everything, I found myself fighting back a smile. "Sit down, Uncle Pete. Let's talk about how we move forward from here." As I explained the agreement to him, I could see him wrestling with his pride, but looking at the numbers, how much they'd save even while contributing fairly, I saw the moment reality won out over ego. "Where do I sign?" he asked finally. As I watched them both sign the agreement, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Maybe, just maybe, we could salvage this situation and come out stronger as a family. But one thing was certain. I'd never again let anyone take advantage of my generosity, family or not. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is set firm boundaries and stick to them. 6 months later, the transformation in my household was remarkable. The agreement had become more than just a piece of paper. It had reshaped our entire family dynamic. Uncle Pete, to everyone's surprise, had thrown himself into home maintenance with unexpected enthusiasm. After taking some online courses, he actually became quite skilled at repairs. The same pride that had once made him lash out was now channeled into keeping my property in pristine condition. Daniel, he called one Saturday morning, come check out the garage organization system I installed. I walked out to find my previously cluttered garage transformed into something that could have been featured in a home improvement magazine. Everything was labeled, stored efficiently, and there was even a new workbench. I used my contribution money for this month, he explained. Figured it was better than just handing over cash. Plus, it helps everyone. That was another surprising change. Rather than viewing their monthly contributions as a burden, my aunt and uncle had started looking for ways to add value to the household. Aunt Marie had taken over meal planning and grocery shopping, reducing our food waste and costs significantly. She even started a small vegetable garden in the backyard. The teenagers, Jamie and his sister Sarah, had also stepped up. They created a chore chart app that we all used, complete with utility usage tracking. Their tech-savvy approach to household management actually made it fun. They turned it into a family competition to see who could save the most energy each month. One evening, as we all sat down for our now regular Sunday family dinner, a much more pleasant affair than that fateful party, my parents joined us. I hardly recognize this place, Mom said, looking around appreciatively, or all of you for that matter. She was right. The tension that had once filled the house had been replaced by genuine warmth and cooperation. Even the physical space reflected the change. Shared areas were kept clean, personal spaces were respected, and there was a sense of collective pride in our home. Remember when you thought I was being harsh? I asked her quietly. She squeezed my hand. You weren't harsh, honey. You were wise. Sometimes love means setting boundaries. Uncle Pete overheard us. He was right, sis, he said to my mom. I needed that wake-up call. We all did. After dinner, as everyone helped with cleanup, another new normal, Uncle Pete pulled me aside. Got some news, he said, uncharacteristically nervous. I've been offered a full-time position at the hardware store, assistant manager. That's fantastic. I genuinely meant it. Yeah, well, he shuffled his feet. The thing is, with Marie's job going permanent too, we could probably afford our own place now. I felt a surprising pang at the thought. You don't have to leave, I said quickly. The arrangement's working. He smiled. That's just it. We want to stay, if you'll have us. Put the money we'd spend on rent towards something better. Maybe help you with a down payment on that rental property you were talking about. I stared at him shocked. This was a far cry from the man who'd screamed about me taking advantage of family just months ago. We've been doing the math. Aunt Marie joined us, wiping her hands on a dish towel. If we all pool our resources, we could turn this into something bigger, a real family investment. Jamie and Sarah bounded over, excited to share their part. We've made spreadsheets, Sarah announced proudly, showing how much we could all save by continuing to live together, but investing the extra money instead of spending it on separate houses. I looked at these people, my family, who had gone from entitled house guests to true partners in building something meaningful. You know what? I said, grinning. Let's see those spreadsheets. Later that night, as I sat in my office reviewing their surprisingly detailed financial plans, I reflected on how far we'd come. The crisis at Party had forced us to confront uncomfortable truths, but it had also opened the door to something better. My phone buzzed with a message from Uncle Pete. Found a great property listing. Has 2 units and a basement apartment. Could be perfect for our family investment. Coffee tomorrow to discuss. I smiled as I typed my reply. You're buying. And no trying to fix anything without proper training this time. His response came quickly. Deal. And Daniel, thanks, not just for the house, but for not giving up on us when you had every right to. Looking around my now peaceful home, I realized that sometimes the hardest conversations lead to the best outcomes. By standing firm and demanding respect, I hadn't just protected myself. I'd helped my family become better versions of themselves. And that was worth more than all the unpaid utilities in the world.